Never before in the history of West Indies cricket there have been so much organized cricket being played. Between now and the 24th of December, West Indies cricket teams will be involved in 8 more international matches, apart from the one that we just lost to India. This morning, as usual, on Takedown, we have Basil Butcher Jr. and Dwight Shatu to take us through the happening in West Indies cricket, the controversies, the news, the positive stuff. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the #1 cricket channel in the Caribbean. I appreciate your company. I thank you for being here, and I look forward to your interaction. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to the Takedown.
Good morning, Carlton. Good morning, Dwight. Good morning to your viewers.
Hey, morning, Basil. Morning, Carlton. Morning to you viewers. Really nice being here again.
Yes, gentlemen. Let's start with the match that has just finished. The West Indies losing that T20 international match to India. And Basil, I know that you are an expert on women cricket, and I hope you would have watched the match. Give us your general feedback. Tell us why you think Shamila Connell should still be in this playing 11. Who do you think that should have played in the 11 from the 15 that was there? Because we cannot do anything more about the 15 that was there instead of the 11 that played. And where you think we go wrong, Basil? Over to you.
I think the bowling was poor overall. They bowled very poorly, very inconsistent, bowled a lot of bad balls. And India have some very talented batters. So if you're going to do that, you're going to pay the penalty. And the penalty was 195 runs, which was always going to be a tough task to chase. I would like to hear an explanation as to what is Connell's role in the team. That Connell seems to be bowling after 10 overs these days, and she is a seamer. And I might add, that pitch they were playing on is one of the seamer-friendly pitches there in India. Yet Connell bowled after the 10th over.
Thank you very much, Basil. Do you have any comment on the match, Dwight?
Not so much. I think that Basil sort of hit all the points and stuff. So I don't really have anything much to say. I don't hold out a whole lot of expectation in terms of this team performing strongly against India. But I think there are some questions that what Basil mentioned about Connell that would love to get an answer to. Would really this team? Let's start by saying that this team exceeded all our expectations when they went to the semis. But really, some of the times we're not seeing that sort of consistency and that sort of step-by-step development in the team. And I think some of them has to go down to selection. So I think that Basil is spot on.
Thank you very much. You think there was anything that we could have done differently, Basil? Because there was a lot of talk before the match. India really grilled Ailey Matthews yesterday. And one of the things that I was glad the way she shows a lot of attitude yesterday in that interview. And she just never got going today. And I know that she wanted to get going today. And she bowled bad also. What do you think we could have done different? Should we have batted after we won that toss?
No, it's all about execution. The execution was poor. They got to just execute better, whether they bat first or bat last. And I think they feel with their bowling attack is not that good to stop, defend runs. So they feel they would be in a better position to chase. So I think that was one of the impetus to send India in. Secondly, we saw the dew factor. There was a lot of dew on the field, so that also may have played a serious role into why they chose to bowl first, so they didn't have to deal with the dew like the Indian bowlers had to.
But dealing with that dew,
No, but when you said what was the attitude Matthews was showing in this?
No, I loved it. It was a positive attitude because all those Indian press were grilling her. You know, but I love how she came across. That's what I was saying. I love how she came across. I love the body language and how she was expressing herself. And they were even asking her about performances in T20 cricket. And I think Matthews, in her own way, would have said that, well, we reached the semi-final of the World Cup and you didn't reach. I think she told him that without saying it. You know, so there was a lot of things I like about I like about her response to the questions they were asking her. I'll try to play one of those videos through this session. The next
but
thing
Carlton,
yes.
are you comfortable in terms of the selection of the team? You're comfortable with the outfit that you're seeing?
No, there are players who are there that I would not have carried. But my position have always been, at the end of the day, whosoever is selected in the squad, I am going to back those players. Whether I think they should have been there or they're not, because I support West Indies cricket. I don't support individuals. But clearly there are players who are in India that would not have been in my squad. I also think that Rashada Williams, although she's in such a poor form, she just cannot do worse than some of these players. Take, for example, Connell. There's no need we need Connell to bowl. She bowled 1 over for 11 runs. She made a brilliant run out, but between that, she made some very poor fielding. And then I would have gone in with someone like Rashada Williams. You know, Basil, your reaction?
No, one of the other things I would say to add to what you're saying, I noticed although she made 49, Joseph's conditioning to me has gotten even worse. Because she was struggling to run 2 runs. I mean, at one that she should have been run out on that ball, but injured through the ball. And the girl caught the ball. They realized that and when she looked up, the girl's teammate screaming at her, because Joseph would have been out by a mile, which should have been an easy 2 runs. And West Indies cricket as a whole, both men's and women, got to really buck up when it comes to this conditioning. Because we see it with the men, they have discarded the fitness testing parameters for selection, saying we got SECs at all the franchises, but I have not seen an improvement in our conditioning, and it's always been worse with the women.
Yes, during the watch along that was just completed, we had a live poll that was going on. Who is faster, Rakeem Cornwall or Kiana Joseph?
It's ironic you say that, because my friend, both of us look at a lot of women's cricket. He said to me, we have another Rakeem Cornwall in the making.
Yeah. But interestingly, you would like to know the result of that poll. Only 56% think that Kiana is faster than Rakeem. Only 56%.
That was here.
I thought it would have been a bigger gap, but only 56%.
That is a race that should be staged so we can wager bets on it.
Absolutely.
Some sponsor come up with it and, pay both of them and let's see the race.
So, gentlemen, are you saying that we should try and find a promoter to sponsor a race between Kiana Joseph and Rakeem Cornwall?
Yes, and I can tell you, you know why? Because it would be more CTV. I can tell you, all of us will be tuning in to see that race.
Yes. Cornwall might just win though.
Yes.
And listen, both of you too wild. I'm staying away from this conversation. Both of you too wild.
Gentlemen, let's...
Don't worry with you. You would be tuning in for that race.
I would be tuning in, but I'm not saying anything that you guys are saying right now.
No.
Gentlemen, let's move on now to the ODI series where we clean
moment.
Yes, where we clean sweep Bangladesh in the ODI series. Let me start with you, Dwight Chateau, this time. I would have already summarized the series, so I do not have much to say on it, or probably I don't have any more to say on it. But Dwight, tell me, what were the good things in that series for you? What would you like to see going forward? What are the situation now with Django making that century coming into bat at number 6? How does it affect the dynamics of the team? Those are the things that I want you gentlemen to react to. Go ahead first.
I mean, the mere fact that you're able to point to so many things which are positive, sort of like summarize what I felt about the series. I thought it was a very good series for the West Indies. I hear people getting up and say, "Oh, it's just the West, it's just Bangladesh." West Indies hasn't been that good against Bangladesh for some time. All right. I hear some people say, "Oh, they didn't have this play and that play." You play what's in front of you, and I thought that what the West Indies did, and I said it in another space, and I'm going to say it again. What the West Indies did and what Darren Sammy has done with this ODI team is going to get Mr. Coley fired with the test team. Because when you look on it, it's not just the situation that where this ODI team has moved from having a win-loss ratio of around 0.4 to now having one of around 1.25. It's not the fact that he's closing the gap and the team is improving. It's not just the fact that outside of Pope, we're seeing in the look of Carty and Rutherford, we're seeing the emergence of new players, and there are people who are just very, very, very excited at what they're seeing, John. It's just that we're seeing a strategy, we're seeing a system, we're seeing some level of consistency coming up on the team. And I think that's the most pleasing thing that we're seeing. We're seeing improvement, we're seeing greater consistency, we're seeing other players coming into the fray. And Mr. Seals made sure that I had a trip to the dentist. I had said that I'm not seeing too much of him as a white ball player. And kick my teeth out, and still trying to find them. I have another session with the dentist.
Thank you very much. Basil, your take on this series?
I think what was I liked was I saw an improvement in the team as a collective from game to game to game, which is what I want to see, right? So regardless of the opponent, it's more to see how the West Indian players individually and collectively are showing some increments of improvement. Bangladesh, although kudos to them for beating Bangladesh 3-0, it's not the sternest test, but that's what you do when you don't have the sternest test. You win, you beat your opponents badly, and I kudos to them for that.
Okay. Who was the most outstanding player for you in this series, Basil?
Sure, Finn Rutherford.
Okay. Back now to you, Dwight. You mentioned that Darren Sammy may well get Andre Coley fired or something like that. Are you saying, Dwight Chateau, that Darren Sammy at this time is showing himself to be a better coach than Andre Coley, and there's a lot of work Andre Coley needs to do? And what specific work you think that Andre Coley needs to do to get the test team improving?
I'm most definitely saying that Darren Sammy is out coaching Andre Coley. All right, coaching is not just putting cones out and coming up with team strategy and putting exercise. There's a whole lot of what you need to do as a coach to get players to buy into your philosophy and to get better execution from your players. And I don't care what anybody want to look at me and tell me about all the West Indies had a good T20 unit and so Sammy had better things to work with. When you sit and you look at the results between 2016 and just before Coley came, the test team was performing better and more consistently than these white ball teams, and Sammy came in and he has improved them on both sides. In case you forget, these white ball teams were being eliminated early from tournaments, or they were finding it difficult just to even qualify for the tournament. Both for the ODI tournament, for the T20 tournaments, they're being kicked out early, or they couldn't even make the main draw. Sammy has come in. He has infused confidence in a lot of these players. You see a clear strategy. You see the roles of player. And I do not see that in the test team. What I see in the test team, for example, is brain freeze in the middle of the innings. Players who are uncertain what to do, or when they're supposed to grind through, they get out at the wrong time simply because of brain freeze. See? We're seeing issues at the top of the order where they look as if they can't get the ball off the square. And so I do believe that despite the resources that people may think that he has that he has been given to work with, I think Coley can do a lot better. Number one, I think he can put a more aggressive player in that batting lineup, because crawling along and just going on, just waiting, playing a day cricket and not putting much on the board, and then having brain freeze the following day and just losing a clump of wickets is not going to get you there. So that's one strategy. One thing I think that he should be looking at, and I think he needs to toughen the team up mentally. I think that's a must.
Thank you very much, Dwight. Basil, do you agree with Dwight's perception that Coley is on thin ice, and Darren Sammy, with his performance, is even showing up Coley somewhere?
No, I did. I totally have a alternate view. First of all, I think he's overstating Sammy. West Indies have never beaten any good team since Sammy has been the coach. We have beaten all second string or not fully strength teams. So let us put Mr. Sammy's record in proper context and not just looking at the scorebook. That's number one. Number two, the team that Coley is coaching is a most inexperienced test team. It is the longest format where it calls for longer focus. Sammy is not coaching teams that have to do that. He's coaching a 2020 team and a 50 over team. And may I remind Mr. Chateau, Sammy was at the helm of the coaching team that we did not get out of the qualifiers. Don't you remember that? So all this hula, hoopla about Sammy. Let us be clear. In the World Cup we played in the T20, didn't we have brain freezes? Didn't we not execute when it was time to execute? And now you want to throw Coley under the bus? Where are you going to find these aggressive batters we are talking about in West Indies cricket? They don't grow on trees. We ain't got Viv Richards growing on a tree. Coley got to work with what he has. No, I would want to ask you this. I hope you're taking note of some of the most foolish selections Mr. Sammy has made. Right?
Basil.
Right? I want you to make note of that and all this praising but Sammy. I want you to ask Mr. Sammy, why is Kyle Myers not in the team? That you got to bring a Fletcher and a Johnson and you got Kyle Myers? Where is Kyle Myers? Why are we not hearing about Kyle Myers?
No. Calm down, Basil. And I want you to bring down emotion. And I'm going to introduce some facts to you. All right?
Okay,
you're out there saying, oh, Sammy has not beaten anybody. And we're not playing good against a strong team. This was the same white ball team that was losing to the likes of Zimbabwe, and that were losing to teams and couldn't qualify for the main draw. So this thing we can't beat any strong teams, and all we're beating are some weak teams. We're losing to weak teams before. Bangladesh was having us for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. So stop telling me about, oh, Sammy hasn't done anything special. No, wait. Let me continue. Mr. Coley, before he came to the table, the West Indies test team was winning 29% of its test matches. Okay? Since he has been to the table, we are winning 18%. Before he came to the table, we were losing 53% of our test matches. Since he has come to the table, we are losing 64%. Why hasn't he even been able to keep the performances at the same level? When he came to the table, we had the likes of Bonner, who some people thought maybe something can happen there. We saw greater consistency from Bradfield. Since he has come to the table, we saw the likes of Joshua De Silva, who we thought maybe he can develop. Since he has come there, all these players have fallen away, are no longer in the team. The team has declined under Coley, and the opposite has happened under Darren Sammy.
Bonner played under Coley. When did Bonner play under Coley? Please tell me. Now let's be clear. Under Coley, we went to Australia and win a test match in Australia. When last a West Indies team did that? under Coley, right? So let me just remind you about that. A young team goes to Australia after getting mauled in the first test and beat the world test champions in their backyard. Sammy has not done anything comparable to that. Anything. So let us be clear about that. Right? Sammy, Coley, you talking about the silver falling away. That is not Coley's fault. That is the silver. The silver has not put in the work. He gets out the same way over and over. You want the coach to go out and hold the bat for him? Come on.
Just remind me again. Who was coaching the team when we went to Australia and Zimbabwe and South Africa? Just remind me, who was the coach at that point in time? When we went to Australia, where Bonner got hit in the head. We went to a short tour of Zimbabwe, and then we went to South Africa, where Bonner couldn't even make it. No. Who was the coach?
Phil Simon coached the team in Australia, and then when we go to South Africa.
Okay. So Bonner, so Coley had Bonner. Coley had Bonner. Okay, so stop saying this. Everything that you're saying, you're still hiding from the fact. The team was no. Let's not hide from the statistics. The team was winning 29%, almost 30% of his matches before Coley. And when he got there, we are now winning 18%. What do you mean? No. You are what your numbers are as a coach.
I don't want to hear about that scorebook.
You are what your numbers are as a coach.
No. You see, I didn't come prepared to go in to show you the areas where you have improvement of players in the test team, etc. That you are now you're putting out.
Tell me which batsman. Tell me which one of the batsmen have improved on Coley. He already had a good bowling unit before he got the team. The bowlers were already good. Tell me where the team has improved in terms of its batting since he has got the team.
I want to give you a statistic that I can remember clearly. When West Indies went to England for the last test series, they talked about the test experience in the top 6, right? Holder and Brathwaite. How much test match they play? And the rest of them in the top 6, the other 4, did not add up to 10 test matches. And we're going to play in England, where none of these guys had ever played cricket before.
Who selected the inexperienced team?
We had nobody else to select.
No, who selected? No, because all the experienced players like Blackwood couldn't even make the trip.
That was the last.
So he selected a bunch of inexperienced guys. The team has declined under him.
That was the last team that Desmond Haynes selected, right? Was as a chairman. Now you want to tell me who else would he select? Those were the same guys who went to Australia. Who else are you going to select?
Basil, we came back from the last to South Africa. The team wasn't looking good. We now found a way to draw with Bangladesh in our own backyard. That's clear underperformance, and that's all on Coley's shoulder. He selected those teams all by himself. He wasn't just sitting down and giving Desmond him some idea.
Hold on, Chato. What you asking Coley to do in the short time is what we just call in Guyana wanting blood from soup.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Just let me make this quick point.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. This is the first test series. Okay, so it's a short time.
No. When West Indies batsmen have been poor for a long time, showed up in Jamaica. An out-and-out fast bowler and an out-and-out top-class spinner that challenges both edges of the bat. That's why we lost in Jamaica. Because to date, we are not producing batters that could combat either.
Meredith Gerard Mead, Mr. Casanova, Lansley Blake, you know, Dr. Doom and Gloom. Yes, yeah. And Dr. Doom and Gloom is making a very good point here, gentlemen. Well, I would say what you call a light moment point. He's saying you can't use fast and Cornwall in the same sentence. so there it go.
It's relative. It's relative.
It's relative. So Naya TV, good morning to you too. Mrs. Brown, good morning to you. Dan Dada, the #1 fan is here. Good morning. Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is saying, Basil Butcher, thanks for calling out Casey Carty's strike rate. He has been playing good cricket since you made that statement about him and Puran. So Basil, let me ask you this question, because this is one of the questions that I was asked to ask you, gentlemen, because there are a number of questions that persons have asked me to ask you. And this post from Michael Douglas now allow me to ask you, Basil. Let me read it. Basil, do you still of the opinion that Puran walks into the West Indies ODI team ahead of Casey Carty? That's what somebody have asked me to ask
every
you,
day of the week. There's not even a shudder of thing. Casey Carty cannot carry Puran's. Don't let me call out the word. I'll stop right there.
Thank you.
Casey Carty. I mean, you're looking with two eyes. Don't tell me about strike rate. Look at the two eyes. It's cheese to chalk.
Yes. Earl Thomas,
these guys just make a lot of jokes.
Earl Thomas, good morning. Naya TV said, I disagree with Basil's argument totally, while Earl Thomas believes that we will win 3 matches. So let's go there now, gentlemen. The T20 series starts this evening. Starting with you this time, Basil, what are your predictions for the series? What would you like to see in this series?
I think this series, the T20, will be very interesting, because if the conditions are anything like they were in St. Vincent during the World Cup, it's going to be tough going for West Indies, because of Bangladesh's spinners will be playing in conditions that are very, very favorable to them, right? We saw in the World Cup where Nepal, South Africa had to scrape to beat Nepal because of the plethora of spinners that Nepal possessed in very spinner-friendly conditions. So if that is so, it will be a very close series. If not so, I think West Indies will win going away.
Dwight, what are your thoughts this evening? And is there any particular player you're looking forward to see? And are you disappointed that Hope and Rutherford choose to go to Australia?
All right, one at a time. I agree with Basil. I think this is a nice series for the West Indies, a nice challenge for the West Indies. Where they're playing these games, Annisville versus the Wicket. That ground has not scored, I think, more than 160 runs in quite a number of T20 games. And we saw that even during the World Cup. And so playing a team like Bangladesh with a lot of spinners, that's going to slow down the game and all of that sort of stuff. It's going to be an interesting challenge to see whether or not this West Indies batting unit will be able to play it. This is the type of challenge that I'm anxious to see the West Indies cricket team respond to. You know my view really about players having contracts and going on to play in these T20 competitions. So from that point of view, I'm not happy with that, with what has happened. However, I would have chances are asked that a strategic rest be given to maybe a couple of players to have a look at the bench strength, because I think that's one of the things that this series gives us an opportunity to do. I'm anxious to see Greece. I'm anxious to see whether or not Carty can make that shift over to T20. I'm anxious to see Springer as well. I absolutely don't know why they have selected Hines, and I'd like for him to kick my teeth out the same way that Seals did, Zin, but I don't know what Hines doing on this team. But for those other 3 players, I really would like to see them and see how they're looking. And I also want to see what's going to happen at the top of the wicket, whether or not King can reestablish himself as an opener on this team.
Thank you very much. Basil, come back to you. What are your thoughts on Hope and Rutherford choosing to go to play Big Bash instead of playing for the West Indies?
I think the West Indies board has made a decision to not encumber these guys earning, right? And in terms, if I'm not mistaken, is this the first time both players would be in the Big Bash? So it would not be good on their part to be turning up to the Big Bash late, if they want to continue on, because probably that was not the deal they made from the onset, and then to change it at last minute. So I'm not getting into the quarrel about that, because to me this Bangladesh series here, I think is a great chance to see the bench, as Dwight said, to have bring more players into the pool to see and so on. I'm surprised they went back to both Johnson and Fletcher. I would have liked to see some other players brought in to see what we have, because I'll give you an example. South Africa played a test match against Sri Lanka, and the next day they played a T20 game against Pakistan. So that told you not a single test player, which some of them played T20, was on that team. And that's what we need to be seeing in the West Indies.
There was one exception though, Basil. Rickerton, I think.
No. He came in the second game, not the first game.
He came in the second game.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yes,
thank you for that. Dwight, here is your friend asking you. That is Massive It TV. This is Roger. He's saying that, are you saying Coley should have a test team play with more intent? He's asking you a question.
I'm saying two things. One, there has to be a strategy that we're seeing being executed over time. So if you have decided that your approach to how you want these guys to bat is to wear down the batsman, is to wear down the opposition and then cash in, you can't have a situation where guys are batting for a good while, and then when it's time for them to cash in, they're getting out. That is just poor. All right, I'm putting the whole thing of the team being able to move from a team that has not been able to execute strategy well to move to a point where it can execute strategy well. All right, I'm putting that on the back of the coach. I'm not putting that on just simply on the back of the player, because I think that's what we have. No, when it comes down to the opening position, I do not agree with the idea of having two batsmen opening the innings who simply grind along. I think you need that flexibility with your openers, and I preferred when the likes of someone like John Campbell was opening alongside Bradfield. But what we have right now are two guys who can't get the ball off the square, and I don't think that's good for you.
Thank you very much, Dwight. Just running through some comments here. Naya TV saying the team is better since Sammy has taken over. Based on Basil argument, he will not give Sammy any credit. According to Basil, all credit to Rutherford. Mr. Casanova is saying, dang, Sir Basil, you are losing this one good, sir. Sad to say this, but Dwight is right. Our test team got worse since Coley. And Athena is saying, Basil, they're really going at you. Basil, you stated that it's Joshua da Silva fault. What crap you said, you know. So they're going at you, Basil.
I mean, I'll start with Athena. I mean, I think she's a woman, so I ain't gonna
No. She's a male.
Okay, well,
He's a male. Yes.
Athena, let me just tell you something.
And just to add one more to it, yes, Sammy sent Ellen. I just cannot sit and listen to this Basil guy argument. I have never heard this guy said anything which makes sense.
No, well, that's a general statement, and I would dismiss that. That's for the rubbish can. That's his opinion. I put that in the rubbish can. I got time to waste with foolishness. If you want to challenge me, give me specifics. Well, let's start with Athena. A player getting out the same way over and over. It is that player's responsibility to correct that by going and putting the work in terms of Mr. De Silva. Right? So, Athena, if you know anything about sport, that is 101. So don't come back to me with foolishness. Next one. Let me see what the next one.
The part I don't remember them, but the pass. All right, let's move on. Let's take this one then, because they would have passed. Why must we continue to allow Puran to treat West Indies cricket as second class, and we still believe he should walk in the team when he feels like? I think that one is also for you, Basil.
Yeah. Firstly, that is a hypothetical discussion about Puran, right? That was a hypothetical discussion. Puran hasn't played ODI, so let's don't even worry about that discussion. We haven't seen Puran in the ODI thing. So it seems to me that Puran is not playing ODI. The only format he's playing these days is T20. So let's shelve that discussion for let's see what's gonna happen, because Sammy is the selector. So if Sammy indeed, Mr. Puran tells him, I'm ready to play ODI, and Sammy says yes in the side, well then that discussion will be had.
What you have to say about this, Dwight Chatu?
You know, everyone sort of knows my view on this. I've never agreed with the idea of one players having central contract and running off to go and play in these tournaments when it suits them. I think the only time we should have that sort of a situation is if the coach, if it's strategic for the coach to be able to look at his bench strength and he's saying, yeah man, I'll allow you to do this, that sort of thing. Two, I don't think as a team we're going to get better unless we have consistency in terms of the players playing for the West Indies team. Because there's so much that goes into building a team. One, players have to be comfortable with the role that they're given and must be given opportunities to play in that role and feed off each other. Two, there's a whole leadership dynamic and team building dynamic that goes into it. To have players to be walking in and out of the team and to have uncertainty in terms of when players will be available, I don't think that's a good team way to build our team. What has happened with our T20 team is that we have had greater consistency in terms of players coming in. And you have seen improvement in the team there. We don't have that with the test team. In fact, chances are we don't, or I should say, we don't have our best players playing test cricket, in my opinion. All right? And so we don't see that. And it's only when we have seen greater consistency in the ODI team that we see improvement happening in the ODI team. And I'm just saying all of this to say, Puran is my boy. I love Puran. Like Basil, I think that he's a better batsman than Kartik. But I don't agree with the idea where he will play for West Indies when it suits him.
Thank you very much, Dwight. Good morning to you, Sicked Out, Shubman Sharma. Fabian Allen probably need to get into the Jamaica team first. Jupiter Saturn.
Fabian Allen is in the Big Bash.
He's in the Big Bash.
Yeah.
Well, that's very good. We won't be able to execute any strategy, said Jupiter Saturn, with an incompetent batting lineup. While Michael Douglas is saying, I don't see any coach saving West Indies at the moment. No matter how much strategy you want to implement, the guys don't have the talent to execute this strategy. And Clyde Sukaman said, Mr. Basil is correct. Okay, Basil, you are getting a thumbs up here. Mr. Yes. Basil is correct about the Silver getting out the same way all the time. You know, so you're getting a thumbs up.
I remember this, Carlton. I was in a high performance coaching seminar, and the great Kumar Sangakkara graced us with his presence to speak about batting. And on the subject of form, Sangakkara and preparation.
All your point there, Basil. Just let me just read two more comments in support of you before you go on. Jupiter Saturn said, Mr. Basil, don't even pay any attention to these clowns in the comment section. Yeah, no. Jupiter Saturn, I don't think it is fair for Jupiter Saturn to call the other. I think he could have expressed it another way.
Everybody has their right to their opinion, and let them come.
To call them, refer to them as clown, Basil. We don't want to go there.
No. All I say is, if you're challenging me, come with a specific. Don't make a general statement, because we can't get into intelligent conversation, right? When you just make a general statement, we want to stick with thing. Yeah, but what he's saying is, we're not talking about to Paul Goodman. We're not talking about T20. We were talking, you know, in the event he comes back to play ODI, right? Which I will tell you, I am disappointed that he stopped playing ODI, because the last time he played ODI for us, he was by far our most successful batsman in that World Cup qualifiers, you know, and then just dropped the thing after that, has not played an ODI match for us since, you know.
Yeah. And so this question goes to you, Dwight Chateau, and it comes from someone asked me. Last week, Mr. Brown mentioned forgiveness. I forgave you, Dwight, for thinking that Alzarri Joseph should be the captain of the West Indies Test team. I will now give you an opportunity to redeem yourself. Do you still stand by your opinion that Alzarri Joseph should be the captain of the West Indies Test team?
100%. 100%. What are we looking at now? We're looking at the two most senior guys in the team, or two of the most senior guys in the team who people believe are captain's material. One is Brathwaite, who right now is looking closer to being dropped from the team than being in the team. His batting average has been down to around 20 or 21 over the last 13 games. And Joshua De Silva, who many people in the Caribbean are saying is the heir apparent, who I agree has been good with the gloves. I've disagreed with many people, and I say I do have a problem with his wicket keeping because his catch per match ratio is right up there, even though he'll drop one or the other one. Joshua De Silva is the second guy, but he also has a batting average that has consistently declined from around 28 to now entering the teens over the last 13 games. All right, so I can't be looking at these two guys and be thinking, oh, one, I'm going to give them seniority and give them an automatic place in the team, even though their form declining with the bat. And the batting is the most important part of our team to develop right now. I'm not going to look at these guys and say, oh, I'm just going to continue to pick them as captain and vice captain or whatever the situation. No, I believe increased competition should be presented to the opening position in the team and the wicketkeeper batsman position in the team. And these guys need to earn their place in the team going forward as players, as batsmen. And the only other play I see in terms of being able to allow that to happen is to make angry Alzarri Joseph the captain of the team. Yes, Alzarri has had a couple of issues. We all know this. And I think I want to see some amount of mentoring and things being done right, and some people sitting down and just having him be more aware of certain things. But I think we're still seeing angry Alzarri Joseph improving as a bowler. See, there's little question about his place in the team. There are lots of questions about the wicketkeeper batsman and the captain's place in the team right now.
Thank you very much, Dwight. Basil, do you have a quick response to what?
Yeah. I don't. I have an alternative view to Chateau. Captaining the West Indies cricket team is the hardest team in the world cricket to captain. There's so many different personalities coming from varying different cultural traditions around the region that you have to deal with. I do not think Alzarri is ready for that at this moment. Alzarri needs to straighten out some of his temperament and so on, because you have to have a certain amount of temperament to be dealing with that. So I would pump the brakes on Alzarri. And I just want to make the quick point in terms of De Silva. And why I said about De Silva, the great Kumar Sangakkar in that seminar that I was in with him, when he spoke about batting, he said, when you prepare as a player, and when somebody is out of form generally, it is because you do not have a clear mind when you go to bat. You're not out in that clear mind frame of mind when you're going to bat. That's usually when somebody is out of form. But he says, when you're getting out over and over to the same shot, it is a technical issue. And that is the case of Mr. De Silva.
But Basil, you haven't tackled the primary thing. What are we going to do about the batting? Because you have said on this program, you have said on this program that both De Silva and Brathwaite are getting out the same way over and over again. Do we continue to select them?
No. Not Brathwaite per se. And Brathwaite gets out various ways, right? Brathwaite has, let me just say this. I remember listening West Indies were playing Sri Lanka. Ian Bishop was on commentary with either an Indian or a Sri Lankan guy. And this was the first time this guy I ever seen Brathwaite bat. And the guy was appalled to know that a guy with such poor technique could be playing test cricket. He kept saying it over, and Bishop sheepishly said, well, on a flat wicket, he can get away. But on the wickets that where, there is some lateral movement or extra bounce and so on, so Brathwaite will get found out. And that is usually Brathwaite. The thing about Brathwaite that he has at his world class is a temperament to stay and dog it out. And we have had batters of that ilk like Brathwaite throughout Test history that have been successful in Test cricket. Look, I'll give you one who recently retired from South Africa, Agard. There's nothing about Agard that looks good when he bats. But Agard finds a way to stick it out, and got to give Agard credit to almost average 40 with that kind of technique, etc. in South Africa, where he played most of his Test cricket, and where those pitches favor fast bowling, and he got to face the new ball.
So you're comfortable with Brathwaite averaging 21.
Gentlemen, I just mute your mic because I want it. So let's move on, gentlemen. I unmute it back now. So let us stop it there because we need to go. John P. Nicol is saying, thanks for Basil for asking the question where Kyle Myers and why is Fletcher and Charles in the team? And Shubman Sharma is saying, do you think Rutherford can play at number 4 instead of Ruston Chase? I want to move him because he's doing so well. Mr. Casanova said that Silva is always going to get out 95% of the time the same way. Naya TV said, Dwight, I really like how you are presenting your arguments. I agree with you. No one can stand in Pooran's shoes, but I disagree with him just walking into the team anytime he wants. Not a good example. Travis Brathwaite is saying, who is higher in the pecking order for the Silva keeping spot when considered Imlach and Django? And should both of these batsmen be challenging for a middle order spot? Quick talk on that, quick respond here, Basil, because there's something that we really need to talk to about for 1 o'clock.
Django, let's see how Django goes. He had a great debut in the ODI and so on. Django's wicket keeping is we complain about the Silva. I know you guys have seen Mr. Django behind the stumps. He played for Jamaica at one time. Django by no means is an international quality wicketkeeper. So let us pump the brakes on that one because we want at least somebody competent behind the stumps. We already got one we have some issues about. We cannot go below that standard. Imlach, I think Imlach is a better mover. Yeah, he's more athletic and so on. I don't think his wicketkeeping is that great. But the issue with Imlach, one with people may argue with his batting, but Imlach has done a credible job in the regional first class, and he is next in line. So if you're going to sit down the Silva, if we go to Pakistan, you gotta give Imlach a look.
Thank you very much. What can Atenes do to correct his shot selection? He needs to practice and practice and practice and practice. And then when he have because it's probably even a fitness issue with him, because when you get tired, you lose shape and so on. So I always made the point. Usain Bolt train 4 to 6 hours a day to run a 10-second race.
Correct.
I always made that point. Our batsmen can't practice for half an hour a day and expect to bat the entire day. I have
Carlton, I always tell young players, elite athletes train anywhere between 4 and 8 hours a day, every day, regardless of sport. If you want to be an elite in cricket, batter or bowler, that is the kind of work you got to put in. I mean, I say, for example, a bowler, you're going to be bowling 8 hours a day. There are all kinds of various components of your preparation that you would do throughout the day. Like I give you an example because I've been exposed and trained elite athletes. A guy or a gal would come in the morning. They would do some work with you, right? They go home or they go back where they are, rest, get some recovery. Then they come in the afternoon. They may do something else, and then they also will be doing their skill work, whatever skill work they have to do in regards to their sport. And when you count up the hours, it comes up easily between 4 and 8 hours every day.
Thank you very much, Basil. I'm coming to you now, Dwight, with this next one. As Mr. Casanova one is saying, Dwight, you're on a roll today with logical argument back to back. Numbers never lie. Look at Dwight smiling. No,
don't worry that thing. Don't worry.
But just to back up your point, Basil,
huh?
and I said this already. I think I said it last week on the show. The director of the Mumbai Cricket Academy, he said to me, you can get away with playing international cricket by training 2 hours a day, but you won't be very good. If you want to be great, it's at least 6 hours a day.
Correct.
Do I know this next one, starting with you? You're having there's a lot of kudos for both of you, gentlemen, and then there's a lot of attack, which we love, different opinions.
Exactly. That's the name of the game. It's called TakeDown.
It's called TakeDown. No, I know that this is your bread and butter. And this is someone has sent in a policy position that is suggesting that West Indies could adopt or something similarly, which is a variance of your own position. I think your position is much stricter. But the players saying that players should not be selected to the T20 International West Indies team unless they have played at least 2 test matches the previous year and 1 first-class matches, providing if they are called to the test team and don't come to the test team, they should not be selected for the T20 international team. However, if they are not called to the test team, you can go ahead and pick them to the T20 national team. What is your view on that? Because it is not as strict and as strong as your position.
Okay, so from what I'm getting, they're tying a player's ability to play on the T20 international team to them making themselves available to play either test cricket or white ball or ODI cricket. That's what they're saying, right?
I don't think they're necessarily tied in because they go ahead and say that if the player is not called to the test team, then it's okay for him to play T20 international.
That's what I said, making themselves available. Not necessarily having to play, but making themselves available.
Right.
I see where the person is sort of like where the person's mind is at, but I don't think it will work. Yeah, I mean, it won't work for very experienced players. It won't work for a player like Nicholas Paran. Because you just simply say, okay, you don't want me to play international cricket, I'll continue to play franchise cricket. The chance that won't work for a player like Hetman. Same thing with
no, but don't cut your Dwight. But it won't work for those players. But I don't think that the person is referring to those players. Those horses are already bolted. We're talking about a up-and-coming player because we know, and it's a fact, it's out there. You cannot make any real money in T20 cricket unless you represent the international team. So I don't think that the players really talking about those horses that have been bolted already. Go ahead.
Well, I understand it from that point of view. But at the same point in time, we had a player like Chris Gale and a player like Pollard and a player like Bravo and a player like Narayan who were all making lots of money from T20 cricket without playing for an international team. So my concern is
but they did play.
No, understand what I'm saying, Basil. I'm agreeing with some parts of the argument. What I'm looking at is the sustainability of it. So it works initially. It works initially before a player is established. But once a player is established and is known, how do we get that player to continue to play for the West Indies? That is my concern. So I like the idea from the initial steps, the initial stages. I'm telling a young player who's unknown that you're not going to play on our T20 team unless you make yourself available for the other teams. All right. If we think that you're ready, we want you to play on those teams. But my greater concern is how do we sustain that over a period? Because once these players are are identified by T20 franchise and are being paid and they perform well, they no longer necessarily need international cricket to continue to be selected. That's why I've said the best thing to do is to put a contract in front of the player.
Yeah, thank you very much. Basil, would you like to react to that scenario?
Look, the position I take, we're going to be dealing with these domestic leagues. I think a lot of them going to fall by the wayside anyway. Because
well, I've been saying that for years. Thank you. Welcome.
Many of them not sustainable. I think some of those leagues that pop up are simply money laundering enterprises. So they're going to fall by the wayside, right? But I think from a West Indies perspective, our perspective should be, we have to have a structure in place, a high-performing cricket structure that facilitates producing very good players that could compete, elite players. So that means guy is not available, next man up. That has to be, because this is not going away anytime soon, because you're going to still have the big bashes around, the South Africa League around, the ITL League around, right? Which those three leagues will always clash, could always clash with international fixtures because they don't have their own window. Now, Pakistan and IPL, because Pakistan now, smartly in my view.
Yeah, Basil, but to be fair though, we understand all of those metrics. What I want to ask you, are you prepared to bake your bread and then allow somebody else to sell it for you and don't capitalize on the product that you produce?
No, well, I think we putting the cart before the horse, because I don't think if we produce a good young player who has not been exposed at the international level, the chances of them getting pulled into one of those leagues before they get into the international level is
zero.
Right.
We know that is going to be zero, but what is the thing after they start representing the West Indies? What is the way forward?
Well, I am saying to you that we have to have some kind of when you get into the international level, you will be signing a contract, right? This is the thing. I put it like this. Like in the NBA and so on, you have a rookie contract. So a team is allowed to have a player for 4 years because they're going to be developing that player. And then the player becomes a restricted free agent where you still have first dibs. Even if somebody wants them, you can match. And then when they go through that process, then they become an unrestricted free agent. So we have to have something similar. You will sign a 3 or 4 year contract with the West Indies team. And then after that, you could talk about don't want to sign contract or whatever the case may be. But we're looking to get our return on investment.
So
I totally agree.
Yeah, and I know that's a position that you have put forward, Dwight Chateau. But the obvious question there now, it's not like a football league in the US where England, like the England Premier League, where if a player is not performing, you cannot move him on and sell him to another club and recoup your money, but you'll still have to pay him at the same time. How do you get out of that?
No, you have the contract, but you have the right to cut bait after each year.
Good point. Point.
So if that player is coming up to scratch, you could cut bait and have no penalties. But you have the right.
To renew the contract year after year for 4 years.
Over the 4 year period.
Or 5 years. Good point.
You just got to structure the contract accordingly.
Yeah. So Naya TV is saying that he agree with you on that analogy. Now, the next question I was given to ask you, gentlemen, is that looking at Craig.
5 minutes, Dwight.
Okay, all right. So Dwight, we'll now ask you, Dwight, to give us your final comment, and then we'll go to Basil for his final comment.
Okay. As I said, I'm really anxious to see the team play this particular T20 series just because of where they're playing it. I'm really anxious as well to some of the newer guys to see exactly what they're made of in terms of Cardiff, Reeves, and Springer. But I'm expecting the West Indies to win this series.
Thank you very, very much. Basil, I recall someone asking what Terence Hines is doing in the team. Was it you or Dwight or someone in the
I
chat?
think it was Hines. I think it was Dwight asking.
Terence Hines. But my position is that I think I do not have an issue with Terence Hines in the
Neither
team.
do I. Yeah,
Yes.
I think we got to give Terence Hines to enough chances to play himself out of the team. And just like Chato, I'm interested to see how Mr. Carty will be at international T20 because seen him in the CPL, and I'm interested to see how Graves will be in international T20. So those are two interesting things to look at in the upcoming game, and may the West Indies come out on top.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure having you here. I am fully aware that a number of you questions were not asked, but you'll agree it's a 1 hour show this week. Basil has to go. But then join me for the live watch along this evening at 7 o'clock, and then I will answer your questions there and then. Until next week, this is Carlton Brown saying bye from the Takedown for another week. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Have a good day, everyone.